Exactly. Do you think that we have clothed ourselves with empathy and solidarity as we have been arguing against some of these regulations?
Yeah, well, if there's anything about these arguments, it has shown me that there is a part of the society that fights for certain things. And there is a part of the society that is fighting for the entire wellness of the country. And it is my opinion that sometimes the inequalities are used against the government, when in fact, these inequalities were created prior to 1994. In fact, they were worse then. We are not talking about inequalities that were created yesterday. So for me to try and engage everyone's opinions on poverty and all this and all that, it is not because there's been regulations or the pandemic that people have become poor. People have been poor for some time. And the inequalities have been here for some time. Of course, it is apparent now that during a challenge like this, which I call a crisis, then these are now in the open. It's not because they were not there before. They are just now in the open because government has to deal with it directly.
Yes. It is very interesting the way our conversation is turning out, because globally, South Africa is seen as an icon of great communication. All the world bodies and people that matter in the world are actually putting us on a pedestal and saying our government is doing a great job, meaning that we are able to, as government, reach out to different people, give the appropriate information for people to act. But I'm thinking about an African proverb that says a healer is never recognized in their own village.
That's right.
How far is that true for this kind of criticism that is leveled at government?
Of course, and it's very much true. I mean, WHO, sang our praises in respect of how the government, took this and how they are implementing safety measures. And I'm saying for the very first time, I personally have seen people stepping up. Yes, it's not perfect. And sometimes the ministers, when they try to communicate what the president or implement what the president has tabled in so far as the principles are concerned, they may not articulate this well. But in the end, that leadership that the president has shown, for me, it's impeccable. And the fact that we fail to identify it or see it in the country is concerning for me. That why would a WHO person applaud our leadership and we fail to applaud it? Why? Because we noticed some few mistakes or some few things that we're not happy about, and we wipe the entire stepping up, which is something I want to encourage expressly, to say you cannot wipe the entire slate because you made a mistake. Instead of writing an A, you wrote a B.
Exactly. It's a means of an appropriate remedy.
Yes.
And I think in law, you also talk about the sentencing part thereof in the application of the law, that the sanction must fit the crime, isn't it?
That's right.
Yes. So in the end now, with a small mistake, and then we want to throw the baby with the bathwater, as the English say.
We cannot. And this has been my view entirely, that this country's democracy is one of the quality democracies. Why I say that is that we've got separation of powers in this country. For everyone who has been willing and tabling to take the government to task, they have had assurance that in the process, if they want to approach judiciary, they could. Because judiciary is independent from the executive. And they are empowered through our constitution to make decisions that are not biased. And this is the beauty of this country. But the question is is it prudent during a time of crisis to literally, this I would call like a hostile takeover in the corporate world, is that some of the groups want to do a hostile takeover by challenging government in a robust way that is not healthy.
Yes,
all I'm saying is that there is an invitation on the table to make representations, contribute to the committee that is making decisions, and there is an invitation that those contributions will be assessed meaningfully. And until such a time, you are able to come back to us and say, I attempted to make representations and I was ignored, then you are not in a position to criticize anything.
Yes, yes. One of the things that I've picked up is some of the qualities of leadership that have been lauded worldwide in dealing with this COVID-19 situation. Is that one of the things that is mentioned is being led by science, being led by intelligence. So these two things, for me, how critical are they when, as citizens, we are raising arguments? And also, how critical are they, these two things, science and intelligence? Not intelligence as in IQ, but information. You know,
that's
data.
Right.
Some call it data, but I prefer to call it intelligence because data is just there, it is there. Intelligence has been processed, it's actually ready to make decisions with, you know. So if you are led by these two things, how then should government shape its communication such that it can land well with the intended recipients?
Firstly, Coach, your question is in many aspects, but I will use an example in court. When somebody has an injury, a head injury, they will call an expert.
Yes, that's good.
To tell the court how those injuries have affected this particular person.
Expert witness.
That's right. And how this, and maybe the life of a person will pan out in the next 5 years. Yes. And that is why we are justifying the damages of this nature.
Yes.
And I can tell you now, once that expert has spoken, the court cannot do anything once that evidence has been admitted.
Unless they can produce a counter argument from another expert.
That's right. So they could call a second opinion and say, give us an opinion. But if in principle, that expert says the brain has been damaged, whether it's going to be 5 years damages or 10 years, it's another issue. But the principle is that there is an expert that says this brain is damaged. Yes. Or maybe two experts for that matter. They could argue around the time it will take to heal, which is what we are seeing here. Government is in contact, consistent contact with scientists and every expert that they are supposed to be in contact with. Yes. But at the same time, the society is reading whatever that they are reading, or they've got their own opinions about what informs this risk-adjusted strategy. It is informed as well by experts. I mean, we've got so many doctors that have been contributing, have been interviewed, and it is clear that there will never be consensus in respect
world-renowned experts.
Yes, and there will never be consensus in respect of the methodologies that needs to be followed. And this is evident in the other countries that we look into. So the other countries have had lockdown today, 1 hour break, you know. So you cannot, when you are writing a thesis, just consult a text. You need to benchmark.
Exactly. Otherwise, it will be plagiarism.
Yeah, exactly. So you need to benchmark and say, okay, before I formulate a view or I take a stance, what informs my view? Is the existing text, which is why I'm saying you can look into South Africa, is no different from any other country. Botswana shut down the country. You know, no one is comparing directly the issues in South Africa with Botswana, with Swaziland. Everyone is comparing South Africa internationally. Yes, I know we are at that level in terms of performance, but no one is bringing it home. No one is saying, oh, Botswana, we actually think you were wrong. Or look at Botswana, look at South Africa, look at Zimbabwe, look at Nigeria. No one is doing that. Everyone is saying, oh, South Africa, you forgot you're not number one. You're not the first class country. Don't behave like that. No one is saying, look at next door. There is a benchmark here. These things are informed by benchmarks. They are informed by experts. They're informed, as you say, by intelligence. And information is important. And when you are dealing with somebody who did not assess information, it's very difficult to convince them that you've actually consulted. And this information is supported by science.
So there's a thing that I'm picking up here, that if government could actually hone in and improve on the reasons behind the decisions that it makes, probably there will be more trust that will be gained, isn't it?
Spot on. You actually spot on. And this was going to be my next point to say, whilst we are convinced that there are experts behind the government decisions, we are not seeing the transparency of that reasoning. So this is what we come out to say, this is the team of certain experts and this is their view, you know, around our decision making. And they must come out clear to say, if I ban alcohol, what are the underlying risks methodologies that I have taken into consideration to ban alcohol? And this was supportive with this consultative team of experts. They are supporting us that, for instance, if there are no accidents on the roads or if there is no domestic violence, our wards will be capacitated to take on new cases. Maybe if something like that could happen, and they could select even 10 items, top 10 items that are painful for the society, and then they discuss the science behind them.
Beautiful, beautiful.